What's up, everybody? This is a subject that, seriously, the more I learn about it, the more it really upsets me. Because once you start to see the bigger picture of what was going on at that time, you see a mirror image of today. Just rampant degeneracy being promoted, as always, by the so-called progressives. It's always the people that are trying to change what is already established and works. The Rhinelanders had been saddled with huge reparations for the First World Conflict that they didn't even start. And as soon as they signed the Treaty of Versailles, which was not an unconditional surrender, they got just treated like straight chattel. So I better not say too much up front here. Let's get into the interviews of some of the children of top ranking officers, and then I will kind of do my commentary along the way. But you should seriously just forget everything that you think you know about this. And I'll provide some really good sources here in a little bit that indicate you've been taught history by the bad guys. I mean, you'll be able to tell from some of these photos, we're just talking about a nation of animals. And they deserved everything that happened because they wanted to be independent of foreign control. I think infiltrated would be a better word there, because that's what happened. But I better just get to the interview, and then I can talk a little more freely after the first 2 minutes. This first interview is with Gudrun Himmler, the daughter of Heinrich, and I just have a transcript of this. First question is, what do you remember before the war? Life before was good, and I mean that in every sense of the word. While I remember nothing about the struggle for power, as I was born in 1929, I heard many stories. When I started to remember my life, I remember my father coming home in his sharp black uniform, and I would take his cap and play with it. I would overhear how much better everyone had it now, and I would overhear how we overcame a lot of despair and a bad economy. Just so you know, the money changers had inflated their currency into oblivion. And I'm just going to call them the NS, that's the national with the socials. But by the time she's talking about they'd got their economy back on track. The people I saw were genuinely happy. There were smiles every place I would go, and my father took me with him on many trips. I remember the throngs of people who came up to my father to thank him and the other leaders around him for saving them from despair. It was a really strange feeling. My father was very high up in the administration, but I felt, and my father reinforced this, that we were part of the people. Imagine that, people that actually care what the city that they live in and what the country that they live in needs to thrive as a society. That was the essence of NS. Everything was done for the people to help improve everyone's life. And I'm not being a fanboy promoting any ideology other than America. I still remember going for walks and smelling all the gourmet food from the mom and pop stores that line the street, because everyone under NS was encouraged to start a small business. I remember life was organized, happy, fulfilling, and full of hope. The interviewer says, there are those who disagree, saying that the NS was hateful or saucerous and divisive and pure evil. She says you don't believe that to be factual, not in a million years. It shows you how powerful propaganda is. There's a book an American showed me once that attempted to show how effective NS propaganda was in brainwashing the masses to do evil things. The truth is far different. It was the Allies who are the masters of propaganda, convincing millions that a nation and its people must unlife and suffer because they are a threat to freedom. NS was born due to a nation being plundered and taken advantage of, with the people lacking the proper will to live and fight for their future. The Fuhrer and those around him saw the problem, identified what was causing the problem, and showed the solution to solve the problem. The idea of a people standing on their own 2 feet and taking the reins of their future is offensive to those who want to plunder and to make huge profits off of the people they slowly want to destroy. We loved our people, nation, and creator. We wish no ill will on any other people, but we did demand they leave us alone. We loved the Europe of our ancestors and wanted to preserve the priceless culture that has given the world all these good things it knows today. Because we loved our nation, our people, and our leaders, we're called racerinos and hateful. We truly live in a world upside down. We fought so the world would be a better place. We insisted that the Rhineland be given control of its destiny and not the money changers. So this is exactly like today in America, where anybody who stands up for the principles this country was founded on gets called every derogatory name in the book. If you liked it before all the economic warfare, when a person could have a job at a factory and raise a family, own their own home, well, then you're obviously a supremacist. And I'll just tell you, if they win in 100 years from now, people will say the same things about us. They'll demonize us the exact same way. I've done a video showing the ridiculousness of the claims of 6 million just vanishing into thin air, and that would be like 1,000 a day, every single day, in a place that's staffed by only 600 or 700 people, and their incinerators being able to work 4 times faster than what's capable today. And these people right here, these are the actual people that worked at these facilities, were just so unbelievably, I mean, just look at them. You can tell they're just vicious. They just want to eliminate these poor people for no other reason than the way they pray. I mean, can't you tell these women are just battle hardened to where it doesn't faze them a bit that a trainload a day of people go into this little building and never come back out? So here are 3 must-see videos over on Rumble. Benjamin Friedman's speech in 1961, other losses about the Morgenthau plan, and literally a plan to just erase a whole nation, and they damn near succeeded. And then while they were G-siding the Rhineland, they invented this idea of the final solution, claiming to be victims of exactly what they were guilty of. And then Hellstorm. I'll link these in the description. Go watch those and you'll have a different perspective on things. Who really came out worse for wear when this was all said and done? The people that had their new state-of-the-art 20th century's technological cities just absolutely turned to rubble? Or the people that got a new country that they had been trying to get for 20 years, or evidently 2000? Anyway, back to the interview with Gudrun Himmler. And, you know, she was just a kid growing up in this, so everything that was just normal life. You don't know anything else. Interviewer question. Your father is accused of ordering the elimination of millions, putting millions more in concentrated facilities, and overseeing a police state who persecuted anyone who did not comply. Can you speak about this? My father was a policeman. He had a deep sense of right and wrong, and expected his men to follow the law in a uniform manner. He gave speeches which I attended where I heard him exalt and chastise his officers regarding not policing fairly. When people break the laws of war and kill innocents, they too must be held accountable. And I thought that's what these guys just do for fun. Next question. If NS was so good and peaceful, why were so many people opposed to their rule in Czechoslovakia? No doubt you are referring to my father's good friend Reinhard Heinrich when you speak of Czechoslovakia. He was assassinated because he was so good to the people. It's a good study of the way the Allies twist history to their liking and use the Czechs as pawns. He was assigned to govern an occupied people, but because he brought in a better standard for farmers and workers, the people were very receptive to his leadership. He came to be very liked and respected. My father wanted to model his style for all occupied areas to turn the people to our side. The English claim he was so evil and bad, a hangman sending thousands to their deaths. It was so bad they claimed that they had to train a team to go in and off him. The problem with this story is that if he was so bad to the people, the Allies would have loved it. It would have made the people ready to aid the Allies in any way. And instead, it took a vast underground Allied spy network infiltrating the Czechs because the people refused to help. Huh, go figure, a little logic. So, according to her, the people were on their side of things because the opposition was the commie reds. That's what everything is about, is the spread of that ideology after the Russian Revolution and the whole First World War. Question: what was your father's view regarding religion and Christianity? History tells us he was an occultist and worked to destroy the church and persecute Christians. Wow, you certainly have read enough of the victor's version of our history. This is something somewhat hard to explain to someone who's not a Rhinelander, but I will try. My father had a vision of a people turning back to their Creator who gave us everything we know. Our people, the Europeans, have created all the great civilizations, have set foot on every continent, and have brought great good to the whole world. We are leaps and bounds ahead of any other people, including the advanced Orientals. My father asked the questions as to why, where, and how. He commissioned studies of our history to trace the footsteps of our ancestors. Where did they originate, and why were they so intelligent and advanced when other races stayed the same? Germany had some of the most advanced anthropologists, genetics, scientists, historians, and supporting staff to help find the answers to why we exist and how it all came to be. So they were questioning the official narrative of this beast system we have today. My father was religious and raised us to be. Every race was given a way to worship their creator. The European people had found a God who worked well for us for 2,000 years. My father's concern was that in just the last 200 years, the Jays have wormed their way into our religion, even to the point of working on translating parts of the Bible to suit their needs. Then they're able to convince leaders that the Bible really is about them and not about Europeans. We're only secondary along with all the other Gentiles. This made no sense to my father, as the Jays have not had any of the marks of a creative, industrious people. I've met people from your country who agree that they cannot be the people of the Bible, or that the Bible is only for them, who denounce and hate Christ. We Europeans took his name, hence every European nation is a Christian nation. My father did not hate or persecute the church. What he disagreed with was the Judeo influence on the church. The NS idea was to turn our people back to their roots from where they came from and away from the modern Judeo-Christian church, who was seen as a destructive Trojan horse to weaken the people and turn them from their God. We have always revered our history. You will see in our very old cathedrals images from our Germanic past, the gods our ancestors prayed to, and it's all tied into our modern worldview of religion. We worship God by thanking Him for our history and honoring our ancestors who brought us forward into the age we are in today. Then, last question, he asks about a couple of the institute/agencies of the NS that I can't pronounce, so I'll just do my best here. Wittelsburg was nothing but a retreat and research center for NS men who were to be the new vanguard of a genetic repopulation of the Rhineland to make up for the losses of the First World War. The others promoted a genetic cesspool where everyone was encouraged to breed no matter if you had a defect or not, but healthy women were also encouraged to abort their healthy babies. Let me know if any of this sounds familiar. This was their way to weaken a nation's gene pool and off the best of the best, making their conquest easier. The blood and soil concept was a back to the roots of our ancestors idea. It was in this that our gene pool would be repaired. Wittelsburg was set up so an NS member could study all about our history, our genetic makeup that makes us whom we are, and how to preserve it. It was to be a place of honor for high NS leaders so that future generations could honor the sacrifices they made to bring us a better world through NS. The Ananarba, the other institution, was nothing but an archaeological research institute run by the NS. They went all over the world looking into the history of the Europeans and looking for evidence of the paths the tribes took coming into Europe. They found evidence of European, who can also mostly be called, I'm going to use the word Nordic. They don't really like the Aryan word here. Anyway, Nordic mummies in Tibet, China, and Iran, and all over what we call Persia or the Middle East. They tested Egyptian theories and found most all dynasties were European bloodlines, not African. Some went to South America looking for evidence of Europeans there as well as in America. They believed Columbus was not the first European on the continent, and indeed the Vikings may not have been the first either. There was evidence uncovered that tribes of Europeans were there thousands of years ago. They studied all aspects and theories of creation and evolution, the origin of races, and traced the paths of the early Nordics who went on to form the 12 main tribes of European nations. Okay, there's one more question, but this is a good one if you made it this far. You do not believe that your father self-terminated himself while in British custody? No. I heard enough evidence by speaking with my father's friends and those who were with him until the end. He had so much knowledge of the war and what started it and how it was fought, dirt on heads of states, and most of all the work with the Jays to help remove inmates from overcrowded camps. This does not fit in with the Allied version of the extermination. Because he knew so much and could disprove all Allied claims against the Rhineland and the top brass, he was oft on Churchill's orders, I believe. He was not like Dr. Goebbels. He believed we could work with the Allies after the war to combat communism and had nothing to fear. He believed the Western Allies were good and would come to their senses as the danger in the East, that'd be Russia. He was wrong in this, and our captors mistreated us. They withheld food and water, hygiene items, and groped us. So now you know what it's like to be in the mind of Hannibal Lecter, the society. I mean, that was all just the most ridiculous crap I've ever heard, right? Well, that's exactly how it is in the comments on the original video of this. You will never convince any one of the masses that there were even human beings on the other side of this conflict. Kids don't learn anything in school, but they know that these are the most evil people ever. And once it's ingrained at that level, it's almost impossible for them to stop and think, oh, there's two sides to a story. And the side that I have heard my whole life is paid for by Megacorp. But let's just summarize some of the things that she's claimed. And, I don't know if these are true or not, but this is her side of the story. When they were in Czechoslovakia, the people actually liked having them in charge instead of the Reds. But she says we were helping them with new farming techniques. And there were a lot of really big technological advancements around this time, the industrial grade farming. But she says that Heinrich was actually well liked by the local people, and that's why it was so hard for the Allies to get close to him to end his career on Earth. I do know this. It's almost impossible on Google to find an actual speech in English of AH. And almost certainly they're going to direct you to one that was supposedly found in 2014 that he decided to change and not actually use it publicly, but this is what he was thinking. And it's a speech saying that they must be ended. That never happened. The whole solution finale, it's completely made up. Like the chambers. The Zyklon B is a pesticide that has a tiny amount of cyanide in it, and the EPA still allows it to this very day in California. They use it in the almond groves. But in the camps, they used it to delouse everybody, to get rid of pests like lice. And then afterwards, they completely just made it up and said, oh no, they use this to gas millions. Oh yeah, that's why California still uses more than 1 million pounds a year on the almond groves? Pretty much everything that they've told you about what happened there was fabricated. But anyway, I have read a speech given by A.H. prior to going into Poland. That's kind of the famous, they invaded for no reason. Well, all of those countries were the buffer zone between them and the Reds in Russia. Just like all of the problems over there right now because NATO is in the red and or blue and yellow. But in his speech, he says that we can no longer sit idly by while our Germanic cousins are being offed over in Poland. There is a concerted, organized effort to degrade and demoralize Whitey. There's never anything good that Europeans have ever accomplished. It was all just throwing the world into captivity. I hardly ever watch any of the History Channel, Discovery Channel crap anymore, but everything is how everybody except Whitey was absolutely wonderful, and then they messed it all up. Well, that was exactly the campaign that had been run in the Rhineland after the First World War. They were teaching the kids to despise themselves, and after going through all of that, then they said, no, you know what? We've accomplished a lot of the great things that are in society today. But it's illegal to point that out because you have to atone for colonization. Well, here's the deal with that, is that was the Catholic Church with the Spanish Armada. Anyway, I'm not sitting here saying that the NS are good guys. Guess what? It was a war. There are no good guys. There are just people that justify their actions as righteous. And that's been one of the most dangerous tools in human history, going all the way back to the Crusades. If you convince people that they are the righteous ones and God is on their side, then they will do all manner of despicable things. And just like the holy knights of the church that used to burn the Cathars, they convinced all of the Allied troops that everyone in this country is absolute monsters, so you're justified for any atrocity that you commit on them. Anyway, I thought it was interesting to hear her side of the story, because nothing ever is just black or white, but that's the way they want people to think. And by the way, if it's all Whitey's fault and Whitey owns everything, then why is it that the government and all of the media and the technocracy is all trying to drop Whitey down to the lowest social class? Well, it's not because anybody out there wants to see equality. It's because somebody that doesn't like Whitey wants all the control. I mean, if it was Whitey doing all this, then why would he be out to get Whitey? And if that's not who's doing it, then who is? Well, they had answered that question by the 1930s in the Rhineland. Static out.